Picture this. It's the spring of 1943, the absolute height of the Second World War. A Spanish fisherman, out on the water, makes a grim discovery. It's a body, floating in the waves, dressed in the uniform of a British officer with a briefcase chained to its wrist. Inside that briefcase, top secret plans that would turn the tide of the war. But here's the thing. The man in the uniform never really existed. This is the unbelievable and true story of how British intelligence used a dead homeless man to pull off a deception that fooled Hitler himself and saved thousands of lives. By 1943, the Allies were finally gaining some ground, but Hitler's fortress Europe looked as impenetrable as ever. Allied planners knew their next move had to be an invasion from the south to crack open what Winston Churchill famously called the soft underbelly of Europe. The most obvious target, the one that made the most strategic sense, was the island of Sicily. Taking it would secure the Mediterranean for Allied shipping and set the stage for an invasion of mainland Italy. There was just one massive, glaring problem. The target was too obvious. The Germans knew it, and they were waiting. A direct attack on Sicily would be a guaranteed bloodbath. So, the Allies had a deadly puzzle on their hands. How do you attack the most predictable target in the world? How do you convince your enemy you're going somewhere else entirely? The answer didn't come from a general or a politician. It came from a small, secret group of intelligence officers with a truly wild idea. The plan was codenamed Operation Mincemeat. Its origins trace back to a creative memo from 1939, co-authored by none other than Ian Fleming, the man who would later create James Bond. This document, nicknamed the Trout Memo, compared deceiving an enemy to fly fishing and listed 54 bizarre ways to do it. Tucked away in that list was a strange little idea: planting misleading papers on a corpse. This Trojan horse concept was championed by an eccentric RAF officer named Charles Cholmondeley and a sharp naval intelligence officer, Ewan Montague. Together, they started to build out a plan that was as brilliant as it was macabre. They would get a dead body, create a fictional identity for it as a British officer, and plant fake invasion plans on him. Then, they dropped the body off the coast of neutral Spain, a country known for its Nazi sympathies, and hoped the Spanish would pass the documents right up the chain of command to Berlin. The plan was audacious, morbid, and incredibly risky. If the Germans saw through it, they'd know for sure that Sicily was the real target. But if it worked, the payoff would be enormous. When Prime Minister Winston Churchill was presented with the idea, he gave his approval, setting in motion one of the most elaborate deceptions in military history. To pull this off, Montague and Cholmondeley needed the single most important element: a body. But it couldn't just be any corpse. They needed a man with no family to come asking questions. They found him thanks to a London coroner named Bentley Purchase. In a city morgue was the body of Glyndwr Michael, a 3-4-year-old homeless man from Wales. Michael had been living on the streets, destitute, and had died after ingesting rat poison. The cause of death was critical. The effects of the poison on the body could plausibly be mistaken for drowning after a plane crash. As the coroner grimly put it, he was a man whom nobody would miss. And just like that, Glyndwr Michael, a man who had nothing in his life, was recruited into British intelligence after his death. He was about to be given a new name and a heroic new purpose, becoming the silent, unknowing star of a grand deception. For decades, his true identity would be one of the war's most closely guarded secrets. His body was kept on ice for 3 months, while the team worked to build his new life from scratch. With every detail set, the operation entered its most dangerous phase. Major Martin's body was sealed in a special steel canister packed with dry ice. The canister was driven at high speed to a naval base in Scotland and loaded onto the submarine HMS Seraph. On the 19th of April 1943, the Seraph slipped out of port. At 4:30 a.m. on April 30th, the submarine surfaced just off the coast of Huelva, Spain, a port chosen because it was crawling with German spies. The crew gently pushed the body of Major Martin into the water, and the submarine's commander sent a simple, coded message back to London: "Mincemeat complete." Hours later, a Spanish fisherman found the body and brought it ashore, exactly as planned. The Spanish authorities took the corpse and, more importantly, the briefcase. Just as British intelligence had prayed for, the officially neutral but pro-German Spanish government let German intelligence agents secretly photograph everything before the briefcase was returned to the British. Soon, decrypts from Bletchley Park confirmed the incredible news. The Germans hadn't just read the documents, they had swallowed the story rod, line, and sinker. The fake intelligence landed directly on Adolf Hitler's desk. The Führer, already paranoid about an Allied attack through the Balkans, was completely sold. The deception didn't just seem plausible, it confirmed his own strategic biases. On May 14th, he declared that Sicily was a diversion and issued a series of fatal orders. The results were immediate. German reinforcements were scrambled away from Sicily. The 1st Panzer Division was moved from France all the way to Greece. 7 infantry divisions were diverted to the Balkans, and naval and air units were sent to defend Sardinia. And Sicily? The real target of what was then the largest amphibious invasion in history, it received no new reinforcements. The German High Command was now staring in the completely wrong direction, all because of a dead man and a brilliant lie. On the 9th of July 1943, the real Operation Husky launched. When more than 150,000 Allied troops stormed the beaches of Sicily, they were met with far lighter resistance than they ever expected. The deception had worked better than anyone could have possibly imagined. While the fighting was still intense, Allied casualties were dramatically lower than predicted, and the island was captured much faster than planners had dared to hope. The strategic impact was immense. The fall of Sicily led directly to the downfall of Italian dictator Benito Mussolini and Italy's surrender. It threw open the Mediterranean sea lanes for the Allies and forced Hitler to divert 1/5 of his entire army to Italy, critically weakening the German war effort on the Eastern Front. Operation Mincemeat didn't just save lives on the beaches. It helped shorten the war and paved the way for the D-Day landings 1 year later. After the body was recovered, Major William Martin was buried with full military honors in a cemetery in Huelva, Spain. His tombstone carried his fake name and an epitaph for a hero who never was. For more than 50 years, the truth remained a secret. It wasn't until 1996 that an amateur historian finally uncovered the real identity of the man in the grave, Glyndŵr Michael. In 1998, the British government officially confirmed it, and a new inscription was added to the headstone. Glyndŵr Michael served as Major William Martin, RM. It's a story filled with a kind of profound irony. A homeless man, forgotten in life, became one of the most decisive figures of the Second World War in death. He was the unknowing spy, the silent hero who never knew his own legacy. The dead homeless man who fooled Hitler proved that sometimes the grandest deceptions rely on the quietest of heroes, a man who had nothing, and in the end gave everything for a world he would never see.